Another general question is the type of testing, right? So when you're thinking about types of testing, that is a very broad area. There will be a lot of conversations about manual versus automation, black box versus white box. There are like lots and lots of descriptions about types of testing. So you have to think it in this way. When you're thinking about types of testing, imagine traveling. What are the types of traveling? So that would be like using a bicycle or a motorbike or a car or a flight, or so what tools you are using, why we are using, so that differentiates the types. So if you are consolidate on that area, if you think about what we are testing, then there are two major types: functional and non-functional. Functionality is consumer requirements, what the consumer do and what the application does for the consumer. If you think it in that way, it's functional versus non-functional. Functionality is like what is basic small function, smallest piece of the software, a small unit, a small function returned for very specific purpose. For example, converting smaller case to uppercase. So that is a unit test. And then if an API does something similar and one endpoint doing something similar, that is the very smallest piece of thing, which is a unit test. And then you do like integrated test, if how these different endpoints are connected with each other. Then you think about system testing, how different APIs are connected with each other. Then user acceptance, does your system reaches exactly what you wanted to do, like the entire system, multiple APIs, a database, a UI, if all of them are connected together. If all these comes into picture, then it's a end-to-end or user acceptance testing of functional test. Then we have non-functional testing. Non-functional testing is pretty much everything outside the common functionality. How speed a web page is loading, how fast an endpoint is responding, and how fast an endpoint is responding when hundreds of people or thousands of people accessing the same thing. Load test and performance test. So we will be discussing about each sections in coming videos, but this is the basic idea, right? So you have like functional testing and non-functional testing. Non-functional testing focuses on not the user actions, but how well it works outside these common functionalities, how concurrency works, how the load works, how the system behaves when thousands of people accessing. And then compatibility, how the same system works on different devices, different applications. So compatibility testing. So there are like lots of types of it. We will be having multiple audios on that, but think it in this way, right? Then how we are testing, that differentiate is what you usually see, manual versus automation. Manual is something a human is actually interacting with the system. Like you have a script, you have a written steps to validate, or you don't have a written steps to validate, but you just do it from your mind. But a human interacting with the application is what a manual testing means. Then automation testing, that mostly a script or a program accessing with another program. It's like a conversation between two programs. You write a program, there is another application you wanted to test, what we call it as application under test, and the script or the code you wrote interacting with that and then do some validation and tell you what it does. So that's pretty much automation testing. So the automation testing, now you can hear about AI all around the world. So that is autonomous testing. You can think it in a driving your car. You have a manual driving and you have an automatic driving car, and you have an autonomous car like Tesla. So that's how you have to differentiate manual, automation, and AI testing. Then how much we know about the system, or the tester, how much know about the system. So that split into three pieces. White box, which is pretty much exactly how the code works, what are the APIs, how the API accessing each call. So if you know all of these, if you understand the code, how it works, then it becomes white box testing. Then how much you know. And then black box, you don't know much, you don't know anything. You simply literally, like every app you are using, you are one way or another, you are a black box tester for that application. If you are using LinkedIn too much, you are actually testing. You are seeing some problem, you talk to someone, some of your friend working in LinkedIn, that's what you are doing. You are doing a black box testing, and you are doing as a friends and family, or you are doing a user acceptance testing. Then there is a common or mostly a widely used area that a gray box testing, that you know some of these functions but not everything. You know how each endpoint connecting with each other, or where the data is stored, or which endpoints the app is using, but you don't know inside the API what it does, what functions it has. If you know half of it, and if you don't know half of it, then it goes into gray box testing. So white box, black box, gray box is how much the tester knows about the system. Then it comes to when we are testing, right? So when we are testing and why we are testing. Say for example, a build comes into picture, and then immediately you check for common functionalities. Imagine Amazon, you get a new build of Amazon, and you are trying to do like, okay, at least I can do this login and checkout and payment and basic functionalities. That's what we call it a smoke testing. You do some level of like make sure everything else, nothing is broke. And then you have like sanity testing, that they added a new feature and you quickly check, okay, the positive flow for this new feature is working. And then you have a regression test. You retest everything it was working before to make sure everything is working. So usually sanity test, smoke and sanity will be the first step of any build, and then you do a full regression. Then at the end you will be doing an exploratory of, in addition to what you already written, what you know, what you have already noted down, all the existing bugs, all the existing requirements. In addition to all this, you do a random navigation around the entire application to figure out how it happens. And then this is exploratory, and then you might hear about ad hoc testing. That is again unstructured and random, but it's pretty much similar to exploratory, but exploratory takes how much time you're spending, right? So the difference between exploratory and ad hoc is how much time you're spending. Then as I mentioned, compatibility, and there are like 100 other applications. We will be talking about it in this continuous area. So you have to think it in this way. If you are thinking about what you are testing, functional versus non-functional, how you are testing, manual versus automation, how much you know about the system, white box, black box, gray box, and then when you are testing comes into smoke, sanity, regression, and how much elaborate or randomness you have, it called ad hoc or exploratory. That's pretty much it for today.